Okay, now we're ready to start doing the head. And the first thing I'm gonna do is take the model that I made from last week, put it to its lowest resolution, and I'm gonna duplicate that. I'm gonna name this one just like Luna Head, because my character's name is Luna. And it's gonna be a completely separate model that I'm only gonna have the head on. So because we have good geometry here, that means all I have to do is just grab these around the neck. I can hit Control R and I can get as much as this as I want. So for instance, my character, she's got a little bit of her model shown below. Like maybe I'll grab just this top half here so I can work with just this here. So like if I bring up my reference, this is gonna be different for everybody's character, but I feel like for me, this section could make a nice, like you might do it as like a bust. So I might like grab just the top of the character's chest or something like that. I could do that. But for your character, if they've got like say a collar, this is more than fine. So I'm gonna take it from about here, I think. I'm gonna hit Control R and I'm going to say that we're gonna edge split. And then I'm gonna hit L over this, all these other faces, everything else in the head, and I'm gonna delete this. So I've got two heads. I got Luna and Luna Head, and I'm gonna turn this off because I just wanna see the head by itself. And this is gonna be the basis for what we wanna do. And this is where things, for me, are gonna get really exciting. Let's pull our reference over because we always, especially when we're doing faces, we need our character reference. We wanna be looking at a lot. We want as many angles as we can get. If you have reference of like other actors or people that you feel like are your character's style, it's a really good direction to go. Now let's take this and start thinking about how we can build out the shapes for it. I like to go for this kind of thing. I like to, especially when you're starting out, which y'all are, I like to think in terms of simple or primitive shapes. So before we do any sculpting, we're actually going to do a little bit of simple modeling with a couple simple shapes. So I'm going to add in, as I mentioned before, a couple shapes. I'm going to start with a cube. And let's scale it down. And we're gonna have to apply the resolution on all these kind of things, but I'm keeping it as low as I can get right now. So S of X, scale this down, and this is gonna be the start, S of Y, of the bridge of my nose. So I'm just gonna put it in here. Real rough, but that's okay. Let's go back into edit mode. I'm gonna set this here, S of X. And you can see it doesn't look super like my nose yet, but it's okay. It's just the start. It's a landmark more than anything right now. As soon as you get the overall size, something here, we're gonna hit Control A, all transforms, because this transform is the same as this transform. Let's start getting the next part. Let's get some ears in here. For those, I'm gonna pop in a couple cylinders. The number of sides for a lot of these just doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna put it at 16. I think that's low enough to work with. And what I wanna do with the cylinders, instead of N-gon, I'm gonna set this to nothing. I'll show you why. Because I want these to be grids. So grid fill. Let's offset that one more. Great. And I'll do the same thing here, grid fill. It doesn't really matter that much if they line up or not. Let's scale this down like so. And then we'll rotate it. Make sure I got enough 90 degrees. Look at this from the front view, and I'm just scaling, moving, and placing this as the rough idea of an ear. And this is where I can go ahead and start, tilting it back, putting it relative into place, shift it a little bit this way. Again, looking at your reference, trying to figure out with your character, but it's just the start of something here. And I can take this, add a mirror modifier to it, and set the head as my center, as my object. And these are intersecting shapes, and that's okay. Let's get a couple more shapes in here. I want another, let's start here. I'm gonna take another cube. This one though, I'm gonna hit Control 2, which is a shortcut for adding a subdivision. Pretty handy stuff. Let's pop in it from a side view. And this is going to be the sort of basis of the tip of my nose. And I'm gonna make a duplicate of this, put it over here, scale it down a little bit. This is gonna be the basis of my nostril. Just like before, add modifier. let's mirror it and set this as my mirror object. Then lastly, I want to put in an eyeball. Eyeballs are really important, and this character has fairly large eyes. It depends on what your character looks like. I like to use UV spheres for this, and the reason I like UV spheres is they kind of done some of the work for us by building out this as an eye. So when I'm working with this, having your eye to start with is really, really helpful. So let's look at it from a top view, or actually let's pull out, because we're going to want to rotate this anyway. So let's just do that. I'm going to rotate it down 90 degrees, look at it from this front view, and I can give it a little bit of color. And one of the ways we can do this is giving it a few materials. So it depends on how many loops are really running through this, because we just want this center part. Really, I want it about here. So maybe I'm going to add this loop. And all I want to do is take these faces and then all the faces in between. C is my hotkey for my paint select, enter. Let's add a material to it. New material, and instead of setting its color here is white, but one of the things I want to do in this is viewport display color. And let's set its viewport display color as white as well. Great. And then I'll do a new one, and we're going to assign our new material to this one. And this color is just going to be just like black. And then we'll assign its viewport display color as black. Viewport display means what colors are going to show up as when we're in like our second mode, which is also going to be helpful for sculpting. So this character's eyes are going to be closer to that like anime eye kind of proportion. So I might need to make some modifications to it. So for instance, I had this extra loop in here, and I'm saying, wow, they really gave her some pretty small irises in a couple spots. So I'll just pull it back, and I think this will be a pretty good start for it. And I might even take this eye here, and what the heck? Let's make it even easier on ourselves. I'll do this section, and I'll add another material. Let's make this, she's got what, greenish eyes? Color doesn't matter here right now. I'm just trying to get the idea across. Do the same thing in here. And then let's assign these. So this could be the basis for our eye. Now, depending on your character, if they're more realistic, it's going to be a rounder eye. A character that's done for illustration or animation often has kind of like flat eyes that we want to work with. And so this character, to get the style, I might have to exaggerate that to make it a little flatter to make it work, but that's okay. Nothing's wrong with that. It's just artistic liberty. Try to get a sense of your character and what shape their eyes are supposed to be. So we want to get them to more or less line up and think about what is the angle. And we're, again, two-dimensional art cheats. It's absolutely what it does. Let's take a look at it from here, maybe with a little X-ray mode. So you can see roughly where it should be and how large it should be. And then let's add a modifier. You can do a mirror modifier here. This one we're going to leave like this for a little while. And let's shrink it down. This is going to be sort of in the head for now. And we'll make room for it in a second. Yeah, wow, our head's looking great. But that's okay, this is the stage we're at. So before I combine anything together, I'm gonna start sculpting out some of the core features with what I'm working with. So let's go to our sculpting tab. And I'm gonna turn off our wireframe. And let's see, I got a couple options. Random is really fun because it gives you that, but material is going to show us the material color of these individual pieces. So that's pretty handy. And I'm going to set my objects here. I think they're fine like this. So what I can do now is take this head and say, all right, resolution's pretty low, but we're going to work with it as much as we can. So G, F, and let's make some room for the eye sockets and where they should go. Just pulling around, again, she's got a very heart-shaped kind of a face, so I'm trying to get the chin in a little bit, pull the cheeks out. Her brow, I can see, like it's sloped from the side like this, so I want to make sure her brow kind of comes up, and then this is out, and then, you know, she has that sort of, again, very stylized look. That's what's going to be fun for the character. And this is why I like to put the eyes in right away, because they kind of help me see where other features should go. So I get to this point and maybe it's too low to work with. But let's keep doing the rest of the nose. She's got a very, very small, very petite, very button kind of nose. And that might be challenging to do with the geometry I have here. So I can take this and just Shift R. Let's see. If I remesh it right now. Oh, it's going to remesh it into oblivion. You know what I got to do? Just remember, that was my problem. With all these pieces, remember I shaped and moved them around? Select all of them, and let's really reset their transforms back to the center. That's why I was running into trouble with them. Home to pull me back to where I want to be. Okay, back into sculpting. Because now if I hover over this, and I'm on this object, this should work a little bit better. Might still be too low. What if I go a lot lower and just see what happens? This might be something I need to combine in with the rest of the head. Let's go into, I guess I'm just gonna try manually then putting in some edges because I think it just might have too little geometry to work with now. Let's put it to here. That's a good start for it. Into Sculpt. And make sure we're in symmetry. It's this little butterfly up here. The symmetry mode in here is great, and it works a little differently than the symmetry that you might be used to, switching back to the head, in the mirror mode, but it's symmetry that's designed for more for sculpting. So D, F, and trying to build up the idea that this is the bridge of like a nose. Let's take these here. So let's D and take the nose now. Same deal. Symmetry has to be turned on here. And I like to keep it as individual pieces like I have now as long as I can. Because the longer I keep them separate and individual pieces, the more control I feel like I have over the key features. Oh, and I definitely want to apply my subdivisions because I want those points. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to play with. So I'm just trying to get... Here is going to be basically here into the nostrils are going to be on the side. So let's D this, and I want to have the subdivision. I can leave this mirror on because they're not overlapping on the center. So we can sort of shrink this down. And I'm trying to pull them, smooth them out as I go. I'm just trying to pull them into the sides of the nose. Circles and spheres are really great for blocking in key shapes for this reason, because they're simple shapes. So still is like, you know, pretty dominant forms, but I have, as I'm working, I like to pull out a little bit. And what I like to do, especially when I'm working with heads, is I'm going to take my pane here, just going to drag this all the way over, and I'll set this, I like to do like a little side view, and let's do another one down here, and I like to do a front view, and then T, and then we can go up to here and turn off all this like visibility stuff, and that way I can just get my front view and I can just get my side view. This is something I wish they had in like other programs like ZBrush. And one of the reasons I sometimes like Blender almost a little bit better for some kinds of sculpting, because I can get these views a lot easier and I can make some changes to the shape and see how it affects the rest of the character. Let's get the ears a little bit, because that's again, really important shape that's going to convey. We can see it comes right up from my chin here. Sort of curved up, you know, from this direction, rotating around a lot. Another thing we can do to help this process go better is in our view tab. Focal length 50mm is not great for faces. Let's do something more like 85. This is a little flatter and a little closer to orthogonal. It's not purely orthogonal, like the higher we get, the closer it gets to flat. The reason being, if we're at 20mm, you can see as I get closer, like we get that really exaggerated fisheye. And how can I tell how big the nose or the ears are when I'm like this? The further away, the less noticeable it gets. And 50 is the default, but even 50, we sometimes get that same exaggerated stretching. But the nice thing about like a 90 or an 85 is it's a little flatter. And so we don't get as much of that exaggeration. We get a better idea of the overall shape of the head while we're working with it. going to try to reshape my little art panel here because it's a little big for what I need to do, and I'm running out of some screen real estate, but that's fine. So yeah, just playing with this, kind of keying out the shapes and remembering some of those things I was talking about. We're not making big smoothing changes yet. We're just sort of putting the shapes together. All right, I feel like I'm at a good stage and I maybe am ready to put some of the next bits together. So let's take just this head and I want to get some more resolution for it. So I have a multi-res modifier on it already. I'm going to turn that off because I don't need it for this. Let's Shift R, let's give it some more resolution. And that was bad. And what happened here? So the problem is this is an open back system. So I cut it off and it doesn't like that because it's trying to do it, but it's also trying to get the inside and it's making a real mess. So to fix that, let's go to our edit mode. I'm going to select all these and grid fill. Grid fill is great. And I could set it like this, and actually this would be fine. It would totally work with it. But the more I can give it what grid fill wants, which is a pretty good number of spans, something like that, it's going to work with this a lot better. So now check it out. Exact same model, back into sculpt mode, Shift R, giving it more resolution, just fine. So we can smooth some things out. And now we have more resolution to work with, but just enough that we can play with it a little bit more. So I'm still keeping things fairly separate. I love to use in here, especially for the eyes, the inflate tool, but I hold down Control to sort of carve and add some space because it has a good way of like pushing some of the forms for the forehead out. And let's say G, F, and I can start to build the idea of like where an eyelid is eventually going to go, because we'll shape that out of the whole face. We don't have enough for a mouth yet, but we're going to get there. Let's go ahead and combine these elements together. So I'm going to take all of these and let's make sure we apply any modifiers, and let's combine it with the head, but we're not going to combine the eyeballs. We're going to keep those separate. Control J. So we're now in here, go back to sculpt. And I'm going to, again, turn off face sets. I don't need them. And now let's think about my resolution. About here is pretty good. So this was maybe a little bit low because we saw we lost a lot of detail here. So let's add a little bit more. We can always undo it. And it's still a little low. Sometimes combining these and here a little bit more. That's not bad. I can start here. So if I start smoothing this out, we can see with even a couple simple shapes, you're like, all right, I kind of start to see it. I can start to see a character coming out of this. There's a lot to work with, of course, in terms of getting all of the features exactly right. Like now you can see, hey, that nose is pretty dominant for what should be a pretty subtle form. But now that we've got all the stuff together, it's a lot easier to start sculpting some of that out. So let's, and I find too, I like to make the noses a little bit bigger compared to what an illustrator does, because an illustrator can just draw a line or two and they're like, it's a nose, get it? Let's go draw sharp to kind of carve it in here a little bit. And then let's hit G. As I mentioned before, G is probably my most used tool. One of the tips I really learned that, man, it took me forever to get the nostrils a little bit better, just push them back into the head a little bit, because see right here, it's sloped like this, but if I push it back, it helps me get the cheeks more defined out ahead of the time. She has pretty large kind of cheeks, so I want to pull those out. Again, something like so. And let's start defining that mouth. Now, again, if I was doing a full character with full mouth articulation, I would actually take this and I would like carve out a mouth out of it, but instead we're just going to do a nice flat sort of a mouth is more than fine. So let's give her more or less neutral expression, and let's start shaping out her upper lid. So this is one of the things that, let's hit G, that the masking tool is really good for. So if I kind of go Control and R, I can draw out, let's see, I think, is it just Shift, or is it holding R and dragging? Or is it Control, Shift, and R is going to do it? Oh, do I have my mask off? That's why. No, my masking is on. I guess I'll just use it manually. This is my masking brush, And I can brush this on to say, let's mask this section out. And what that's helpful for is if then I go to my grab tool and I push it, I can just affect this and leave this bottom lid kind of by itself. And if I hit Control I and I want to invert it, now I can just pull and play with what's going to be the basis for my lower lid in here. Let's go up to mask and let's clear mask, also Alt M. And we can take that and Control R. We can see sometimes it loses our resolution, so maybe we want a little bit more to help us with it, but again, it's all about laying in big shapes. Another thing that's nice for Draw Sharp is if you use it inverted, you can pull some stuff away. But we can see we're really playing with the limits right now of what our geometry can do. So I'm gonna use this to kind of carve away some more space for the eye, trying to create the bare understanding of an upper eyelid, maybe smooth some of this out a little bit. And let's create some shape for this, because I don't like how some of this is lined up yet. We can see it's a little high. So let's hit F and G. I want to line this up more or less at the top with where this eye is. This should be lined up with the nose. It's doing that. And then this earlobe this can still come up. On the backs of the ears, again, not necessarily hugely important. I like to go with a little Draw Sharp and kind of make it a little smaller. Carve out this little kind of groove, which gives me some of the back of the ear, and then I come back in here with like clay. Just build that up. Let's remove some of this. Sometimes using my Draw Sharp to highlight like where I want things to go, because I'll do a simpler kind of ear. It's a pretty decent start for it. Pretty good shape. And let's point this chin more. Definitely needs to be a little bit narrower. So I'm just kind of poking and pushing in and really keeping an eye on all of my various shapes as I'm going. All right, this is a pretty good start. I'm gonna go up like another level or two because I don't want to I could take the whole video just showing you my whole process of drawing and kind of sculpting this out. And maybe I'll upload more of a process video. Trying to get that sense of the characters. Like the neck should come out maybe a little bit more. You know, another mistake I think people make is they do like the chin transition is too low, but you know, the chin's got some space here to come down. Let's pull that chin out a little bit. Let's think about, she has this nice sloping kind of form from here. So let's carve some of this out, maybe with like a little clay strips to sort of say, here's the back. Let's take a look at it from the side view. Like, okay, like looking at it here, does it feel like it's in the center? Yeah, but I think the ear might need to come a little bit farther back on this reference, even if it's not purely anatomically correct. So we want to make sure we try to make these decisions as early as possible because we'll otherwise end up undoing a lot of our good work. But I mean, better late than never, I always say with this kind of thing. So Draw Sharp, just kind of using that to help me carve away and carve a little bit under the chin. And then I come back in and I soften it. And it helps me define like a little chin line like so. Some people really hate the smooth brush as an idea because it's like, it kind of erases form. It's like a lot of art teachers might have told you, practice drawing without the, like with a pen or without using an eraser at all. And it's actually really good advice. And it's a fun exercise. I don't necessarily recommend it for a first-time person because you're going to want to be okay with making those mistakes and learning from them. But it's a really great exercise if you've done some sculpting and modeling before to say, like, what is it going to look like if I don't erase? Like, what can I do with it? What shapes can I create? And what's going to come out of the model that I didn't expect would happen? So I think these cheeks definitely need to come out a little bit more in here. And maybe the inside of the nose needs to come in a little bit more here, something like that, because I'm thinking about that zygomatic arch. Another way I like to do the zygomatic arch is like literally just almost like draw it out and I smooth it back. There's a little divot back here that I can knock in with some clay strips. Another thing that's nice to do sometimes if you're really trying to like nail things down is use something like scrape and just start scraping away to like build those planes of the face, especially on stylized characters. Sometimes you'd really surprise yourself some of the shapes that you're getting. And if you're like, oh, I did flatten and it gave me completely the wrong plane, well, it probably meant that the underlying shape was wrong too. And so again, why I like using the smooth, like I don't like smooth shading when I'm sculpting at this stage, because it shows me a lot based on how it's going to work. We're going to need to go up one more level to build the eyelids. Now, some people like to build the eyelids out separately as two other pieces of geometry, and it's not a bad idea for this because I do feel like it's a hard thing to convey when we're first starting out. So let's take this object. I'm going to take the eyes. Let's make a duplicate. Let's remove their materials. I'm going to remove these two, and let's give it. It's got the mirror, but I'm going to give it a solidify. Just want to push it out, its shape, just a little bit. So let's set its offset. Let's set it to 0 to start with, and we're just gonna give it just a touch outside of the shape of the existing eye. Great. So now we can look at this by itself again, just by going to View and Local View, toggle local. And let's go to our edit mode on this object. And let's move mirror. Oops, didn't want to duplicate that. Move mirror below solidify, and let's apply our solidify. So in edit mode, I'm going to take the top and the bottom here, and we're going to split this into two parts. Edge split. With this object here, I can say A, P, and then by loose parts. So I got a bottom lid and I got a top lid. Local view out, local view back in. Just like you'd expect with this, we're going to grid fill it. And let's give it enough spans to do its job. Set this to 0 offset and see. You can see it's kind of rotates it. Oh, that's beautiful. That'll work great. Let's do the same thing with my top lid. Select this. Grid fill. Can't even remember how many it was, but give it a couple spans. Give it a couple rotations. I think I was at like 8 or something like that. Great. So now what I got is the beginnings of a couple eyelids. And of course, these poles we can already see make it a little trouble for us, but that's okay. It's just to give us a good start here. So F, G, and now this is something I can lift up. I duplicated this, didn't I? Gosh, I hope I did. 0, 1. Is it a local view thing? No, it should still be here. Let's see it in object mode. Yeah, I got the eye here. Did I accidentally delete the materials? No. How about my material mode color? Seems fine. Interesting though. Oh, they're there. I just can't see. They're covered up right now. Okay, sculpt. Did I make another duplicate? Is that why? Oh, I have too many duplicates of this. Delete that. Okay. I know, it looks a little derpy, but the nice thing about it is it's going to be a really good base for building up our eye. So D again, really recommend for this project, especially use the latest version, which the recording of this video is 293, which is also LTS, so it'll totally work on anything. And you can see with these upper eyelids now, it's way easier to put them into place. That's why I love working in like this in pieces, is it's a lot easier in my mind to create the kind of shapes that I'm looking for. So let's try to capture her overall expression here. So this is the eye shape that I'm looking for. Kind of looking, it's a nice round overall kind of look. D to go down here. And let's hit D here and let's open up because this is like a lot rounder. So I need a little bit more space basically for her eye to come out. So I'm opening this up a little bit. And then D, that gives me enough space to take the eyelid again. and give it a little bit more. Yeah, that's kind of giving me the feel I want right now. Say D, and take my draw sharp and just carve that out until it fits. D, G for grab, pull this back. Great. When I like where it's at, let's take the upper lids, again, not the eye, might be a nice idea to name them, and Control J, and let's up our resolution. Again, going to Sculpt, Shift R, maybe to about here, Control R. Might want to be even higher because I'm losing quite a bit of the eyelid. That's a little bit better. Oh, I didn't have it mirrored, but don't forget, that's the nice thing about these tools. They got a nice resymmetry apply in here. Symmetrize. And just make sure it's in symmetry. So we do our best at each of these stages. I'm almost going to wrap up this video because I'm at half an hour. Probably my longest one yet, but this is a long process. The nice thing about sculpting is the tools itself I can teach you how to do in a day. The real struggle is the actual principles take a very, very long time. When it comes to this, the actual brushes that I'm using over here, I pretty much only use draw sharp, I use clay strips, I use move, I sometimes use inflate, sometimes I use scrape peaks. I like scrape peaks better because it pushes down, whereas fill deepen will kind of like pull it up, and I don't always want that. I usually want scrape peaks to flatten. Inflate is really helpful to both inflate and deflate an area, like pull it in. And so if I want to make the cheeks sallower, like inflate's really, really helpful for that. Or I want to bump the cheeks out, and I want to make these more sallow. That's a lot easier to do with inflate, deflate. Clay buildups, clay strips is just great for like really lightly. I never use clay strips like that. I'm always using it really, really lightly because it just helps me, and then I smooth it back out. And you can see sometimes I want to remove a little flesh there. Just pull a little bit back, smooth it out, and it really helps me carve that form. So again, at each of these stages, my kind of rule for myself is if I'm here and I'm seeing all of these like faces, I'm too close and I won't get the right view. I want to be like doing it at this stage, and I want to do it as good as this stage and capture as much of her sort of spirit as I can here at this level. And like sometimes I come in a little closer if I'm focusing on like a particular feature. I really want to get this button nose of hers, and I need a little bit more space between the nose and the chin, so that's a good place for my mask to just sort of brush over her lips here, and then I can say G, bring this up a little higher, and that gives me the ability to just move this without moving her mouth. Give me a little bit more nudge, a little bit more roundness to this. And I'm trying to keep her pose, again, Alt-M to clear the mask, pretty neutral right now. So she's got like a nice grin on, and we can talk about kind of carving out some stuff, but we're trying to keep the faces neutral because usually you have to do quite a bit of work on faces to get them to contain expressions. Thinking about clay strips, building up a little mask for the top of the chin, transitioning this sort of form right here. And there's this like little ridge we have under here. And even though it's not in the illustration, I know it's there. So I like to just put it in as like a line, take my clay strips and start building on top here. And then I can smooth it away a little bit, and it will leave me a little bit with what I'm going. Your sculpts are definitely going to look like aliens for a while, and that's okay. It often becomes easier with some of the stuff. You don't want to smooth too much here either, because you can see we obliterate everything. So we're going to need more resolution to get to that level, but we'll get there soon. Often, all of this stuff, especially stylized characters, is a compromise between multiple features. Like I'm looking at this side view, I'm like, wow, her eyes are just like way too far forward. I don't like that at all. Like trying to really base it off of my reference here. You know, I can see it already, like, ooh, those eyes, not nearly enough space in between. And I'm really missing some of that crucial profile here. I feel like her eyes are definitely not the shape I want them to be right now. So FG, again, 90% of the time, I'm just moving stuff. G, not brush. So this might be a case too of just, let's hit D and let's move it backwards. Using my widget tool, so it's object mode. Take this from side view. Oh, I missed that a lot. Like that's way too far forward. And it really affected a lot of my shape here. So let's see if we can really push it back and sculpt up and just see how forgiving it's going to be with me making that mistake. Okay. It's still not where I want it to be, but it's a significant improvement. I've been making heads out of reference, from sculpts, from just skulls, from all sorts of stuff for years, and there's still so many mistakes that I continually catch myself making. I went through, as I described it, a really lengthy handsome Squidward phase where I feel like everything I sculpted ended up looking like handsome Squidward. Feel free to, if you want to speed through the video, I think I'm just going to try to like nail in a lot of this character so you can see me making some of my decisions. I think one of the key things I'm looking at here is she's got this nice flow of form, and I don't really have that right now. And so I'm going to use my my brush here, and try to get the idea. So I'm going to sort of round some of these things out. And if I need to, I'll go down lower resolution just to help build some stuff out. Because, you know, if you go too high, it can be really hard to fix some of these things, some of these issues. Let's go. GF. Really need that, like, it's kind of an interesting shape here because it really pulls out and it goes down like at a pretty severe angle. And then this upper lip, you can see this, it's like sort of slopes in, and so I should get this slope, and then this upper lip should almost be right where that is. And I'm going to use that M to block off the nose a little bit. Again, I find that's, to me, one of the biggest differences I've noticed is the better I've gotten at like especially sculpting, the more I use the masking tool, and I realize how helpful it is. Whereas when I first started out, I was like, I'll just carve around it. And you do it because you're like, you're not comfortable with the tools yet, and you're feeling a little lazy, and you're like, I can just carve around it. It's, to me, almost always a mistake. Okay, Alt-M to clear it. Getting closer. You know, we want to transition from what it was before, which is just like looking like, oh, it looks like a default young woman kind of face, to it looks like this character is where we want to start getting with things. Again, keeping in mind, as I always say, concept artists are liars. They often create shapes that are impossible, that don't make sense. And stylized artwork can be a real challenge. It's just always about picking your views that are your most important angles to work with. And I don't want to just obliterate all my detail by smoothing everything out. Some of you just want to like build in. And I'm trying to get this, there's this whole form that goes over the top of the nose like this. I want to build that transition in. Maybe I'll just smooth a little bit of this out. I'm getting closer to this. I think my chin's coming out too far. Hers is definitely a little further back. So a little softer. Don't stay on one angle too long or one view too long. Just try to get the idea of some of these shapes because they're not always going to be realistic. Because her design, her face changes shape a lot. We can see like this shape of a face is very different than like that shape of a face. Is very different than that shape of a face. It's also, you know, when we're doing concept illustrations, something like that, an open mouth is a completely different shape. Let's give her, let's fill out her cheeks a little bit. It's going to make her feel a little bit younger. She's got that real cherubic pointed chin. Just trying to like work. Sometimes I really look around it and I'm looking for the sides. So that's where I'm getting my information, is rotating it from the sides. Again, gave her, I think doing that one demonstration, something a little too sallow. And let's maybe take this and do that scrape peaks, and I'm just gonna kind of build up this top shape here because I want to get like that space for the eye. Okay, I'm gonna take it up another level. So whatever it's at now, you know, I can take it up pretty significantly. So if it's like 0.8, this is where I might kind of come into my remesh and say, all right, it's like 0.6 something. Let's set it to 0.3. Something pretty low. And let's see if we can remesh it. All right, see, now I'm up at the 200,000. Got a lot more stuff to work with. And I only want to move up when I'm really ready, because it's going to start to slow my machine down to work at this level. I'm kind of touching things up, and this is maybe going to be the highest I go with this model. So let's do my draw sharp. Do it in the opposite direction to get my upper and lower lids. Get a little clay strips. Smooth some stuff back. Ooh, too much smooth. Maybe carve this back a little bit. Sometimes when doing stylized stuff, I have a tendency to go too real because I love realistic in anime and I study it a lot. And I should be simplifying it a little bit more sometimes, but you're gonna bring your own style to whatever you do. Sometimes people tell me, oh, but I want to do my own characters. When you work on other people's characters, you lose all creativity. And you can always tell 3 people, they can do the same exact tree 3 different ways. Let's give it a little carving for the nostril. Don't need a lot, just a little bit. And we can see this is the first time I'm getting like close. I'm putting in like smaller features. Chin, still not where I want it to be. I'm moving a little ahead of schedule because usually I'd spend, you know, an hour or 2 at each of these stages. You can also see why I like to work low as long as I can, because now it's like harder to move things and it gets lumpier the more I try to fix stuff. It can be really difficult to do at this stage. Let's take it and I'm just gonna carve out. If you ever see those videos online of people like, oh, speed sculpting ahead, talk to them. Like, you look at like Jan Sculpts is like one of my favorites, who does everything in Blender, does really, really great Blender character sculpts. And says, oh yeah, character takes him, he's like 8 to 10 hours. Just in one session, sitting down. You watch through it and it's like a 15, 12-minute video. I need more space between the eyes here, and don't want to pull the nose out a little bit. And you watch it and you're like, whoa, how's that guy so fast? And I'm like, well, hey, probably made it before. He's made a lot of characters exactly like it before, but also he's taken a lot longer to do it than you might think based on just looking at his overall video time. Trying to get a little sense of just a subtle upper lid. Can be really, really thin. I feel like it just needs to be in, because I know there should be an upper lid and I'll be annoyed if there isn't one. Okay, some stuff that needs to be worked on for sure. Haven't really paid much attention to the ears at all. What do they have style-wise for their ears? Oh, it's like literally just like a little divot. I can do that, no problem. I'll add a little bit more to it because, well, because I like modeling and I like adding more features, just little ones even if I can. All right. Always good to take a step back and ask yourself, how are we doing? Is it feeling like this character? Does it have some of the features? Yes. I mean, within a certain degree of reason. Again, concept art lies. They don't really have much of a nostril, so. G, F, let's pull that a little bit more because I do want to maybe turn up and like just anything I can do to bump that nose up a little bit. And I think this bridge, it needs a little help. So let's give it a little bit of this, soften that back, because I know the concept loves to not put some of this stuff in. I'm going to build this in a little bit. Just kind of cut things back. Trying to maybe pull out a little bit with my draw sharp in a couple directions here, just to give me a little bit more, and then I can smooth it back. The eyes might be throwing me a little off. They're almost pointing in opposite directions at some of this, but having them flatter, if I was doing this with completely round eyes, that might really throw me off. But like I said, if your character's closer to realistic human proportions, you're probably going to want rounder eyes because they're going to do more for you. Now, a lot of this around the eyes and everything we'll get to when we do hair. We're going to define quite a bit of this when we do some of the, pulling this back a little bit more. We're going to do quite a bit of this when we do like hair. Don't over smooth things. Don't be afraid to redo a thing or two. Won't kill you. And like really keep your eye out for any weird shapes that don't make sense. So like keeping my eye on some of these. So I'm just looking to build like literally the side with these, and then come back in and just kind of polish them over. This area I always find is one of the trickiest, and I tend to spend a lot of time in here. Ooh, goodness, I'm almost at 50 minutes. But I expect a lot of you are watching this on fast forward or maybe in the background or something like that. That's one of the best things you can do when working on characters, especially, is just like show it to other people, get their thoughts. It's really hard to do some of this without a lot of feedback. You ever feel like a shape or an angle isn't right? Come back at it. You can change this too. Something I like to do is if you're at matte cap, change up the matte cap. See what shapes it shows us now that we couldn't quite see before. Think about how that changes things. But again, this is still like slowing down on my computer a little bit, and I'm only at 200,000. One of my big issues right now is just the eyes are distracting me because I can tell they're not pointing the same direction because the irises aren't. So I'm gonna just simplify it for me and I'm just gonna ignore that shape because it's getting kind of in my way of thinking about the overall bit. So just one or two more little tweaks because I kind of want to get that idea of her smiling eyes. I definitely need a little bit more space. I haven't been putting enough space in between the eyes because I feel like I've been getting distracted by those eyelids, which I don't need. Do a little draw sharp. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so of course I've got a bit of work to do on this. There's stuff I like about it, there's stuff that needs work, stuff I might still tweak up, and you're probably thinking, what is he talking about? Looks great. Mine's not gonna look that good. It's okay. It's, again, first project, first time doing a lot of this stuff. It's hard to even describe all the processes. I've been to so many sculpting workshops and seminars, and the pros there, like the people who are like incredible, they're like, oh yeah, you just kind of work it till you get what you want. And you're like, there's got to be some secret trick. There really isn't. Just like a ton of practice. It's a lot of ideation. I'm just kind of carving out here this little cheek. I know I can do that with this, and it just gives that nice little shape. And actually we build it up by doing a little, I love to build this up, this little guy up here with just a little clay strips on the outside. And it just helps really sell that idea. I love this stage, by the way. It's really fun for me to just put those little things in. I haven't really done anything with the neck yet. Of course, there's plenty of musculature geometry here. So for this kind of thing, I'm just gonna do this really quick and then I'll cut this video. So I'd like to start with like laying in where it goes, and then I kind of work across it like so. And then I can take my brush and just smooth things back. And we can see what we're left with is nice, subtle form. And something like this too. Let's just use this and build this up. Anywhere I'm seeing like, you know, obvious pinching or something. All right, so 52 minutes. Not too bad. Definitely could improve some of the stuff in the head. But that's kind of the thing you get. And it's like if it takes you 4 hours to do your head and it doesn't look a quarter or a tenth as good as what we're starting with, that's okay. I mean, if you want to make it, if someone says, how can I improve my head? How can I improve my head? My best tip I'm going to give you is do it again. And it's going to sound wrong, but every time you're going to do it, you're going to notice things. If I sculpted this head again a second time, I would do it a little bit faster, a little bit better, and I wouldn't remake some of the same mistakes that I made here going through it, because you're learning about, you think you've seen everything on the face, but you really haven't, and you're actually learning a lot about the character and their shapes as you're going. And it's just how it is with every model I've ever worked with every project I've ever done. I'm always learning out as I go. It's inevitable. It's part of the process, but that's, to me, one of the fun things about CG art as a field is like you're always learning, you're always growing, you're always doing something new, and you're always getting a little bit better and gathering a little bit more information about what you're really needing, what you really need to do, the features that are actually important at the different stages. And this nose is such a weird little shape, and it's so distinctive to her. It's really given me an issue because I want to make it exactly that curve. But I like it. Still don't like the corner of this eyelid in here. I think this inside here could really use a little bit more flattening. Maybe even try this, like sometimes you just, nope, don't want to do that. Let's try clay strips and I'll just see what happens if I carve out some of this in the side. Like, what does that give me shape-wise? Does it make it better? Does it make it worse? It's kind of lateral. At some point, you just say, time to move on to the next one. It's give it just a little bit here. That's what I want to do. Just trying to draw this line. I'm going to try this one more thing here. I know I keep saying I'm going to cut the video, but I just like sculpting too much. It's the real problem. Like someone's going to tell me cut. I'm going to be like, well, wait. I want to do just like one more thing. So I'm just kind of trying to draw out like where the edges of the brows are going to go. That's really, I like that a lot better. I keep getting ready to say, oh, this is good enough for now. And if there's something you like doing, it's a real direction to take your 3D art career, is this kind of process. Up to you to decide exactly how you want to interpret some of the often, as I said, very abstract shapes of characters. It's like, wow, here our eyes look way more far apart than in some of these other illustrations, but she's also got an eye patch. So that's going to throw off a little bit of what you're looking at from the other concepts too. I'll just pull this back, keep these in here. And let's take this and just that's what's happening too. It's just like scrape away. It's getting rid of more and more stuff. And this is really trying to simulate here, like the idea of a very raised, smiling kind of cheek. So I might just try that out and see what happens if I just say, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna raise this up, elevate it, and then pull that back. Every pass you do it, you're gonna get a little bit better. But I'm gonna save this one because next step is to take it and retopologize things, which is the step of taking your face and giving it the kind of geometry that we have on the rest of our body so we can join things up and actually create a nice final little piece. So I'll see everybody in the next one.